Hello and welcome to Across the Pond WNBA. It has been a very slow week because it's weird because there's no games. The Connecticut Sun sadly went down to the New York Liberty Michelle last weekend, and it's left us with a whole week of no games, which at this point feels a little strange because we've had so many games every week.
It does feel strange. I think it also becomes an advantage, for Connecticut, younger. Um, they got a mixture team with depth and, they're resting their players earlier in the season, so this gives them a chance to rest. Because initially it was an advantage for the Aces who finished in 3. Now I go, both teams get a chance to rest. I think it could potentially hurt the Aces if they're not doing semi game like scrimmages because this will be almost 2 weeks for them that they're off, or a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it does feel like the Aces last game was, like, about 4 months ago, with the delays. And yeah, you're right, like, when I seen the schedule come out, I was like, "A whole week." I understand, like, for the finals, you want the best players, you want them rested, and, the Liberty have a deep bench. They don't really need that much rest. They've got stuff to rely on. But, we'll get into the finals a little bit later. Now, there was an announcement just yesterday of an expansion team. Just one. Just one so far. An
Mhm.
expansion team that will involve Oakland, but the Golden State Warriors,
Ooh.
very, very successful franchise, especially in recent years, winning back-to-back championships and, like, just well, I mean, you got Steph Curry. What else do you need? But Kathy Gilbert said that the Bay Area is firmly aligned with the diverse and engaged basketball fans, and that there should be a hub for women's sports, with 6 Division I basketball teams in the Bay Area. Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, has basically said he is putting his Warriors full business and, like, all these teams together basically to make this team that they're bringing to San Francisco, an unnamed team as yet, but he is basically throwing the whole weight of his organization behind it in order to bring a successful team to the Bay Area.
I love it. That organization, although they've cost me and LeBron several championships, I love what they're doing. This just makes me not wanna like them, but I gotta like them. I think that it is a well-run organization, let's be honest. They are. When you even look at their players and how they're in the locker room talking about their investments and building, you think about that flowing down to the level of having a WNBA team in that area that's playing on the opposite side of the season, so it gives you something to do in the summers in a beautiful city. I think it'll be a great draw. They're gonna put the marketing dollars behind it, but the business wisdom of that front office is also gonna be very instrumental in the growth of the WNBA. I also love that although everyone thought it would be 2 teams coming in 2024, that they pushed it to 25 to make sure it is done right. And I get it because I hear some of the players, we need it now. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I go, I've been around for a while. We tried that. It didn't work. We want to make sure that we give these teams enough time to kind of figure out how they want to do these things. Because I love, like, Mark Davis kind of started the process around, we need an expansion team. Let's look at things differently. To now we see Golden State taking it to a whole nother level. New York is doing it too. Got to give everyone their props. But I think across the league, now you're not cutting key players that can make differences on teams. And you said this for years, we need to expand. I know this has been your thing. So I think this is a great way to do it. But I love the fact that Kathy has been really strategic in how she does it and making sure her timelines give her enough time to adapt to changes in the industry. And the fans win.
The fans win,
Yes.
ultimately. However, there is another city across the other side of
Hmm.
the bay that 2 years ago, me and you had the conversation that they were gonna have a team. They had been putting together this proposition, the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. had put this proposition
Yes,
together, and even as far as I think it was February of this year, like they were still going ahead with it. Like, and
absolutely.
everything seemed to be going kind of full force. And now when you look at what they're doing, they're no longer talking about bringing a WNBA team. Now they're talking about bringing an NWSL team to Oakland. And so I kind of wonder if, maybe a little bit of politicking and stuff, which probably happens with these things anyway. But I wonder if, like, I kind of feel bad for Oakland. Oakland have been gutted when it comes to sports teams. They lost the Warriors a few years ago to San Francisco. They lost the Raiders to Vegas, and they're probably going to lose the Oakland A's to Vegas as well. And I think people in Oakland, because I know a few people from Oakland, I there was some excitement. Oh, we're going to get basketball back in Oakland. This is going to be great. And I wonder how they feel now because they're going to have to still cross the Bay Bridge to go and see a game.
I actually like it. I like it for one reason. It puts it really puts a lot of the onus on these teams that are trying to bring teams together to come with their stuff together. Make sure it's airtight. Learn from what the Golden State Warriors did. See how Kathy's looking at the extended timeline because she wants to make sure, like, with the way the league is growing, this is not the time to have a team drop out or to move. And just understanding what the expectations of the WNBA are, as well as, hey, we have the money and the backing. I mean, Houston, we had all those things and we still ended up folding a team that won 4 straight titles. It wasn't about the money. Sometimes it's also about the strategy and the marketing that you're going to put behind teams. And also making sure that people in key positions understand their roles. Sometimes you might have a person with a lot of money who's now the owner, but they've never run a team. They have no idea the ins and outs of that. And I think over time, Kathy's looking back into all those mistakes and she's learned and she's got much, much better. So I said it's a win for the fans, but it's also a learning for teams and organizations who want to pull their money and bring teams to new areas.
So I was hoping for more. There is another announcement coming right before the finals on Sunday, so hopefully we
Yep.
get a bit more. But there is other teams that are still effectively under consideration on a short list. So you got Nashville, Toronto, Austin, Charlotte, Philadelphia, and Denver. Now a lot of those cities have already got an NBA team. So, if those owners of those NBA teams want to bring a WNBA team, like Joe Lacob, that's obviously a possibility. But there is one team that kind of stands out, not for a great reason, and that's Charlotte. Because obviously they had a team, and that was one of those teams that the Charlotte Sting that unfortunately folded.
100%. That just gave me PTSD.
Sorry,
If Charlotte's on the list, where the It's Houston. Okay. But no,
Austin's there.
I love seeing Charlotte on there. I do have some favorites that are on the list. I know that there's another list for 2 other teams down the road because we thought there would be 2 in 24 and 2 in 25. We see that even that has, changed a bit, and we don't even know if that second team is coming and when they're coming. We know a total of 4 should be coming. I don't know, I do like Philly too. And I have no attachment to Philly at all. But I think with the football, the organizations, knowing that there's not much there, it could bring another summertime thing there on the East Coast. Nashville, up and coming city. Real estate's great. Everything is booming there. Should be Knoxville, but we'll keep it in Nashville. Only because there's so much more. The music, there's things, and there's a tourism factor to it where Nashville does make more sense. And of course, we had some other places across the border and even out here in Portland that I think might be in that second round and actually considerations out there. But I would love to see it in Nashville or Portland. Not Portland, but Nashville or Philly for this first round with that first group of people. Do you have a favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, Portland, because I've been there and I've seen the city and I've been to the arena, which is
Mhm.
probably most likely where they would play. I think after the week that the Portland Trailblazers have had,
That
some
part.
new some news about a new team coming might actually, soften the blow losing Dame. So, probably be nice for them, but I kinda like Portland, mostly because 'cause I've been there and I've seen the city and I've seen how nice the city is, and, you know, it stands to reason, like, we look at the NBA and we look at what they've done with the G League, and every NBA team has a G League affiliate. They don't play in the same arenas because they don't have the same audience, but could we see, like, and very soon we potentially could see the NBA expanding as well, but could we see, like, Seattle have an NBA and a WNBA team? We're gonna see San Francisco have a WNBA team to align with their NBA team.
Mhm.
Are we seeing a bit of a change in the market where because these owners have run these teams so well and successfully, both on and off the court, could we see it that we start to see more WNBA teams join NBA team cities?
I'll be honest, that's the way the league was set up to begin with. And a lot of those teams were dropped. I'll be completely honest. Y'all know I'm transparent. I'm gonna keep it real. A lot of owners did it because the league forced them to take WNBA teams. So the effort wasn't put into it. The strategies for marketing, if you remember, there was like women doing Bud Light commercials, and I was like, maybe that should be Gucci or something. Women like to shop, makeup. Maybe it's something different. It was almost like when you get your older siblings hand me downs,
Yeah.
but they're of the opposite gender, so they're not relevant. And no offense, because you're trying to do the best you can with what you have. Because we just had the '96 Olympics pop off. You're trying to make the most of it. But I think there was kind of a bit of a pull of, hey, we need some of you guys to take these teams and help them. And I think now that the viewership and the sponsorships, the endorsements, all of these different things, the league is out of the red. I think now it becomes enticing because you see and you've learned from it. Okay, maybe not having a woman holding a Bud Light, but a CarMax with Steph Curry and Candace Parker is the way to do it. And it shows you the evolution of learning. Like both of these sports, they're playing the same game, but there's a different strategy and components around each one. And I think now people are starting to see, like, wait a minute, there's money being made. There are TV deals in place. There's so many different factors. You got the NIL now in place. Players don't have to go overseas. Now you can start building these franchises under the NBA the right way. And I think it is going to be enticing. I think that's why I said I love the fact that Golden State took the first stab at it. Hey, we have the resources, we have the money. Let's do this, but we want to take our time and do it the right way and learn from the past history of the WNBA and its start and where it is now. So, got to take your hats off to both parties. Like Adam Silver and Kathy have done an amazing job, and they worked really closely with the front offices across both to make sure that this lands right and that the timing is perfect.
I think the big thing for me is Joe Lacob. When he was talking,
Yeah.
he had that kind of excitement about him, and was really you can tell he's invested. This
Yeah.
isn't just, and he's a smart businessman. You know, he has a lot of fingers in different pies and stuff. So, you know, he's not gonna do something just because the league's leaned on him a little bit. If anything, he's probably one of those owners that would push back. So, I like the thing that he has decided, you know what? This is gonna come to San Francisco.
Yeah.
This is what we're gonna do. And, like, we've already seen Steph Curry put out videos and all the kind of Golden State Warriors players. Because I think Steph and Clay were a little jealous because, like, you go down to LA and you've got Lakers players turning up to Sparks games. You go to
Yes.
Washington, you've got Wizards players turning up to Mystics games. Now they can turn up to we don't know what the name will be, but they'll they'll get to turn up to WNBA games in the city that they live in.
Yes.
So I think that that as well is what makes the WNBA marketable. Not just because NBA players turn up, but the stars come out. Like you
Oh,
go
they
to New
do.
York, you go to LA, you go to Vegas, you look at those front lines. Like some bigger stars turn up to WNBA games now than do the NBA.
Absolutely. And I think that's the most beautiful part. It's men, women. It goes across all different sports. When I think about Golden State and where their players sit in the locker room investing, Now you see that happening on the WNBA side. Now you start to see players and organizations get better and better. And I do take it back. I do give Mark Davis a lot of credit on this because he had the NFL team and the WNBA team. He said, I'm going to show you guys how to make both work and how to make sure the women get the marketing they need, make sure the NFL is doing something completely different. But he built that up from the ground up. And I think Golden State took note and said, okay, let's take that same blueprint, but let's add what we have and what we know to it and just make sure we work with both leagues to ensure that this rolls out the right way. We get the fans, we get our players there, we're keeping them in town in the off season. And it just becomes a banter between both leagues and all the different players. And I think that's where I go. The fans win. You see New York, one of the top media markets in the country. Look at how they have all these star players that have come together and created a buzz in a city that hasn't won. So I think that's part of it. And now you're gonna have I want to see Golden State in 2, 3 years. I want to see what that team looks like. Oh my goodness. Because they're just so strategic with how they make moves. I could see another coup happening out in the Bay. And now you got 3, 4 powerhouses across the league. And now it's looking like the NBA with the entire season. It feels like the playoffs.
And that's what you want. One last thing I will say is, having been to San Francisco, it is a beautiful city. It
Yes.
really is. And I've not been to Chase because it wasn't built when I was there, but you look at that arena, it looks outstanding, and the training facility is going to be in Oakland, so hopefully, they'll have some open days for fans in Oakland, so that the Oakland fans will get to see the players. But I think San Francisco, the Bay Area as a whole, is a great place, and like I can't wait to see the team name, the team logo. Like I'm like now that we know we finally have a team, an
Yes.
expansion team. Like I just want more info. Now we take the good, and then we come in with the sad. Derek Hamby has filed a lawsuit, a discrimination lawsuit against the Las Vegas Aces, and according to documents obtained, the lawsuit, which was filed on the Nevada Equal Rights Commission,
Mhm.
was actually filed on September 22nd, alleges that Hamby faced retaliation for becoming pregnant. Now we had the investigation for the WNBA. We had suspensions given out to Becky,
Mhm.
and if I'm honest, I nothing really happened afterwards, and I just kind of thought everything, you know, everyone kind of accepted everything and kind of moved on. But then, the season ends, and then we have this situation with a lawsuit. Not obviously a great look for the Aces,
Mhm.
but like I think I went from the situation's now been resolved to, oh, maybe it's not been quite resolved.
Mhm. I think they had to keep it on the hush because once that lawsuit is filed, you have to keep it on the hush for both parties for certain reasons. But um, for me, I remember when they were doing all those interviews, and there were players, even that were still on the Aces, that were reaching out to Derica as if they still had her back in her side. I'm sure that was some of those conversations that happened in those investigations. We don't know what was said. We just know that they actually happened. So this is probably why it feels like it could be a strong case. I also look back at how Becky handled it, how the organization handled it. I thought it was well. Even now, when it came out, listening to Becky saying, like, we had a great relationship. I understand that as the coach, sometimes me, the GM, we have to be the bearer of bad news and we have to let go of really talented players. But when you can take a player and get 3 bodies for them, that's a move that I have to make. So I will say this from September to now, they have definitely figured out where their stances are, both parties, Derek as well as the Aces. And now is going to be, is there enough that happened in those conversations and those tweets and all of the stuff that was made public and the things that we have not heard behind closed doors that will show and stand on what the CBA says around pregnancies? Like, did you sign that contract knowing you were already pregnant? And that's where those timelines with doctor visit and all that stuff will come into play, the conversations with players. And then also, if any of those players sent a text and said, "Dog, I'm sorry you got dog. They knew you were pregnant." That could blow it up if any of that happened. If it did not, it becomes much harder to prove because I think for the burden of proof will lie in, did we trade you because you were pregnant, or was it to get 3 bodies for the price of 1? And that is a very legitimate business move. And if they can prove that, I think she has a tough case. If they cannot, she has a leg to stand on.
For the WNBA, not just the Aces, but for the WNBA as well. We're talking about viewership being up. We're talking about like all the positives that we talk about all season long. And yes, we've talked about a couple of negatives that have happened through the season because we like to keep it nice and balanced. But
Mhm.
for the WNBA league office,
Yeah.
that this must be like their worst nightmare because they've got so much positivity leaving their building in terms of expansion, championships, viewership. People turn up to arenas, selling out.
Nope.
This must be like really tough for
Nope.
them.
Nope.
No?
Nope. No. I'm gonna tell you one thing that I learned early on in college, and we've even had the podcast around this. Good media, bad media is still free media. The WNBA is still being talked about regardless. Whether you play sports or not, as a woman, when you hear that a woman is going through this, you can relate. This is not bad publicity for the league. They are still going to get people. Here's the thing, if you got people talking, then you're marketing. That's rule 101. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. So for the league, you got the expansion going on. You got the player that's pregnant that's suing the championship team that's back in the finals against a new team that is did a pulled a coup in the offseason. And you're adding a Golden State team where everyone knows Steph Curry. The league office better be sitting back going, I have done well. I did my job. My job is to get people talking about the league and create different conversations that will draw different people to the league.
Well, it's definitely doing that. Let's be honest. It is with everything that's going on. Do you think for herself, and I'm thinking her personally, the because questions have been raised on social media, but questions have been raised. Where's the timing of it? Like it was filed on September 22nd. Derek Hamby's season pretty much done.
Mhm,
At that point, I- is she left it till the end of the season because she didn't want it to like distract from
yeah,
her playing season? Because that's for me is the obvious answer, and I think
mhm.
sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer.
I think you're dead on. I would agree with that. You don't want anything like that detracting from the team or from your individual season because it takes your focus away. You're having a great season, you've been traded, you still wanna make sure you're doing what you need to do on the court and not detracting from, the spark. So it's kind of like, "Okay, how do I do that? Let me wait until the season is over to file this," because you don't want the conversation in LA to be about Vegas. That detracts from that team. And now you got players having discussions around that versus being focused on how many games out are we away from winning
Yeah,
and get into the playoffs because they were trying.
because yeah, they were trying. They lost on the last game of the season to the Chicago Sky.
Yeah, and that's a bad
Uh,
look for her if she detracts from the team after being traded. That's when you're kind of like, do we need this kind of drama? So
yeah,
I thought she handled it even when she made the post last year.
hmm
She has been absolutely phenomenal in terms of how she has communicated things, making sure it was in the right time and tone.
I absolutely agree. I think she has handled herself because sometimes, and I think of men's sports because I feel, and as a man, that I would just like go on a podcast or I would go on a TV show and I would just rant.
Yes,
And like
yes.
I then have no legal recourse because I've just shot myself in the foot in its canter. So like I would totally like go down that route. But I do like the way that she's handled it. I think it's been very measured. I
Mhm.
think, like you say, the timing of how she's put things out and when she's put things out has been phenomenal. And yeah, hats off to her for that because playing, having these legal conversations in the background, probably away from the sparks and everything else. leading up to the 22nd of September when the lawsuit was filed, like, she still she probably even felt at times that she was on her own little island with that kind of baggage in the back, which is already detracting from her performance potentially. So you're right to bring it to into the locker room kind of thing. Yeah, I like the way that she's handled herself. Well, we will see what happens with that lawsuit. There's no kind of court dates being set as yet. That is to be determined. The only other thing that I can think of was could mediation have been tried first? That's maybe my only thing that, but then we don't know if that has already been tried. So, in all fairness, we're just kind of speculating at that point. Now, Skylar Diggins Smith and the Mercury. So,
Ugh,
I love Skylar Diggins Smith. She's like the gift that keeps on giving. Uh, she put out a tweet. Damn, it's almost like Sandy is a good coach.
I know.
And in reference to Sandy, obviously, who is now with the New York Liberty and in the finals, um, Skylar Diggins Smith is looking to be supported and welcomed by her next WNBA team. Now,
Mhm,
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I thought that when we got an expansion team, it'd be next year,
mhm,
and I thought Skylar Diggins Smith would probably be the first free agent that was signed for that for
mhm,
that new team. But not so far, not so. But it, they have a really bad relationship, the Mercury and Skylar.
mhm.
But it's almost like a backhanded compliment to Sandy because I think
Absolutely, it
for
was. It
me,
was tasteless. It was absolutely tasteless. She knows better than that. She's too big, too popular. There are too many people that follow her. Too many young kids who are going to think, "Oh, I can talk crap about my coach on social media." You think there are consequences for that? You're about to get traded if they let you go. They can just ice you and leave you here. You're a free agent now, but now you have teams looking at you, watching her. And I like Skylar Diggins, amazing player. I love everything she does. And I just thought that was really tasteless. And the timing of it was absolutely horrible, knowing that you're a free agent. And don't get me wrong, because she's also human. It's also, she's been in an incubation period, like she's been in a volcano about to erupt. So that could be part of it as well. So we always got to check on the mental health, because if she's not able to use the facilities, if the team is icing her, eventually you are going to erupt. But now you're making Phoenix look like they were right all along, and that you are a problem, knowing that you had the same issues in Dallas and forced to trade there. Like, now you're starting to get a reputation, and I don't want to see that happen to her, because she's a great gift to the WNBA and to the fans. And I thought that was just, I expect better. I really do.
it's funny, like you talk about kind of reputations. We've seen what Liz Cambage did. She went from
Yeah.
Vegas, falling out with everyone right before she left, ending up at the Sparks, falling out with
Have we even
everyone.
talked about her this season?
I know. So, and she did a massive interview in the summer or just before the summer, uh, you know, and she hinted that yeah, she might come back to the WNBA, but then again, she might not. But for Skylar, like when I think of like teams of the year in previous years, like, Skylar Diggins Smith would always be in the conversation because she is a phenomenal player,
Hmm.
player I love to watch. So like I was kind of the same. I was kind of looked at it and I thought, I wonder what Sandy Brundello thinks of this. Like, is she kind of like, is she saying I was a good coach or is she just taking a dig at them? It's
Sandy
probably a
is
bit of
not
both.
stupid. Sandy is not stupid. I played for her. She's not stupid. She got exactly what you were trying to say, and so did everyone else. Whether they, you don't need to play for her to understand that that was definitely backhanded. That's why I said it was tasteless, because you could read straight through it.
Yeah. If she just said Sandy Brundello is a great coach, well done, that would have been like absolutely fine.
Or don't open your mouth.
Or yeah, just not. Yeah, sometimes my wife tells me to do that. Uh, James, you got nothing nice to say, just shut up. Is usually how it goes, to be fair. So we have the WNBA Finals. It is
Mm,
set
mm, mm,
this Sunday
mm, mm, mm.
in Vegas. Games 1 and 2 completely sold out, by the way, completely sold out. The New York Liberty, they have already sold out game three's lower bowl, and I
Yep.
think there's talk of them opening up the upper bowl, to sell that out as well, which I think they need to. I think they need to. Like, I think they at least need to open it up, so that they can get more footfall through there. Like, let's go set some records. Let's like that's we've seen NWSL do that. We've seen WSL in England this weekend had 56,000 fans to an Arsenal game in London. Like, there's so much choice in London of sporting events,
Mhm.
especially this past week because we had the NFL in town and everything else. But still, 56,000 people turned up to a game. So I think it's great that the Aces are selling out. That's one thing. But the Liberty need to open up that upper bowl and start kind of let's get as many bums on seats as we can watching the WNBA and the finals.
100%. I think that's an option. I think they're going to look at all of those things and figure it out. Do we want it to be sold out? Do we want to open it up and that area is half empty? Let's see. I know for a fact I've had more calls and can you get me tickets? Can you do this? Can you do that? Da, 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 da. Sold out, baby. Don't know what to tell you. I've told you all season this was going to happen. They were going to be here. You could have bought that ticket a long time ago. But I think that also speaks and attests to the wonderful marketing job that they've done. And even the games that we've been to, they've been packed, especially when it's New York and against the Ace. This is going to be sold out. I think you can open up the upper bowl and still figure out how to pack that gym out. I think those tickets will sell. People are flying in. Like I've had athletes and families. I want my daughter at this event. So, and that are willing to buy flights to go to this game. And I think it's something that a little child, young kids should see.
I think you're right. I mean, that's how we grow the league. It's the kids that see it now that in 15, 20 years are then playing in the NBA, getting drafted into the WNBA. So, yeah, I think that's what we need to see is we need to see young boys and girls at these games because, like, basketball is a universal sport, and like I just hope that we can see full arenas
Yeah.
and lots of fans enjoying themselves, having fun.
The
The finals,
atmosphere is dope. Like,
oh
I've been
yeah,
to a few of those games this season, and I love how they put the little kids on the jumbotron during the timeouts, and they have dance contests, and they throw them T-shirts. They give them Asia Wilson signed jerseys or basketballs from the team, and these kids, like, you'll see them on the jumbotron, they'll be dancing, and they'll realize look up and see, and just get to going. Those are experiences that the Aces are really good at doing. Along with showing your celebrity athletes and things like that, they have a very good mixture of creating that atmosphere for everyone who comes to the game. So you're right, that leaves an impression on a young kid, and I'm talking about boys and girls, just getting it at the game, yelling for the Aces, knowing all the players. It creates something in that kid to where you don't forget what that feels like, and you become a sports fan for life.
we had the Aces podcast a couple of weeks ago. We had a guest on Aces season ticket holder, and when I asked her the question, like, what is the best thing about an Aces game, and that's what she said. It's the experience, not
Mm,
just turning up, getting a couple of beers, sitting down watching the game. It is the arena and the atmosphere that is created, not just by the fans, but like they've got the MCs and they're going around, they're doing stuff
yeah,
and jumbotrons and stuff. So that I mean that really echoes what she said as well, because I think and that's what you need, like, because let's be honest, timeouts and end of quarters and half times and stuff can be a bit dull. But if you can, like, thing is, kids aren't going to go to the concession stand to buy a beer; they're too young. So, like, they're going to be staying in their seats. So you need to
yes.
entertain them, and I think the Aces in particular have done a really good job of that. Now, the games themselves, the finals. We're finally here. Although when I say we're finally here, it feels like we've flown here, like it was the start of the season last week. Aces go into this game a little bit more rested, only slightly,
Mhm.
but what worries me and has worried me all season is the depth that New York are coming in with. They have an advantage on that bench, not only in terms of who's on there, but also the amount of minutes that they have played. I
Mm,
think the first time that Sandy has not used her bench was the second half of the Sun game. That the
mhm.
Sun, by the way, I mean, like they were going to make you kill them to take that game. The
Yeah.
Sun were not giving that up, so the starters didn't come out for an entire half.
Yes. And I thought that was a great move by Sandy, smart coaching. There was a lot of things that I saw in that Connecticut game. I was like, "Oh, look at this zone. Y'all doing y'all did the 1-2-2, triangle and 2." I said, "Well, Aces, they just told you what their game plan is." I think it was really good to see them in that matchup because like we said, this Connecticut um Liberty matchup has been the semifinal matchup for the last 4 or 5 years. So, and it has never been an easy matchup. How she was making adjustments and trying different things out, knowing we got to get to the finals and I got to start prepping and trying new things out. I think she's done some great coaching things. She has depth that she can play with, but I also know with most teams, the closer you get to the finals, you got to go with who you're going to go with, and you know who those five are, maybe six. You're usually not going to see too many teams go eight deep in a final. So I think she played it right. And to be honest, I hope that's how the finals go. That actually helps us because that bench isn't as deep on our side.
Yeah, I think as well. Like we look at our team, like I think there's people that have had quieter seasons. Like I think Kelsey Plum's actually had a quiet season.
Mhm.
She's not really jumped out the gate, and you know this finals is potentially a real opportunity for her to kind of make her mark on this season. I think Jackie Young's had a phenomenal season. I think Asia
Mhm.
Wilson has. Chelsea Gray probably a little bit quieter than last season, but still up front. And then we've got Kia Stokes who's going to come in and play. The one thing I like about our bench, we might not have a deep bench,
Mhm.
but we've got sixth person of the year sitting on our
Yes.
bench, and I think Alicia is a weapon that can be just brought out and she brings an energy onto the floor with her. Like she doesn't walk onto the floor; she bounces onto the floor. And I think when you have someone who is gonna bring energy off the bench, that we've seen like in other sports when someone comes off a bench, whether it be an FA Cup final, an NBA finals, or a Super Bowl, someone comes in off the bench that hasn't been playing and they come with that energy. Sometimes that's enough to turn what potentially could have been a loss into a win.
100% agree with you. I think I've been thinking long and hard about this just because of their 2-2 with the Liberty 3-2, if you count the Commissioner's Cup. And I've looked at the matchups. I've watched this all season, and I feel like that's where the hole is in terms of the Aces for two reasons. You have an issue now. You got Jonquel Jones. I told you that's my beast mode MVP. She's been balling. You got Steph, Big Mama Steph on the other side, Brianna Stewart. That's three post players that could be on three different teams on one team. That's a problem. Brianna 6'5", John Quincy. Like you got a solid front line across the board. And then I look at my aces. Asia Wilson should have been Defensive Player of the Year and MVP 2 times. But you get my point. She is a beast, but she's also playing out of position when she has to guard the five. So I have questions around how do you fill that hole because you got Alicia Clark, you got Kia Stokes. Kia Stokes has that height. She can bang a little bit bigger and a little bit better. Alicia Clark, you're going to lose some size. So now you got small ball with her and Asia in against Brianna and John Quayle. I love them. The Liberty should win that. They should win that on height and athleticism alone. And like both teams are physical, both are athletic, but you got inches that New York has. And that's when you're going for that rebound. And, I got that 7 foot wingspan versus Asia that might be a little smaller. That's where I really go because I've heard people say, I think they should start Alicia Clark. And I go, but then they're playing small ball. And do you put Alicia Clark on Brianna Stewart? Because you're not putting on Jonquel Jones. I'm not putting her on Jonquel Jones. Jonquel was running post players her size over in the game. And she was pulling at Alyssa Thomas just pure brute strength. I don't see that. And the height difference. So I don't know how we play that or if that becomes an issue for the Aces on their side. But I love to hear like where you feel the gap is on their side, and then maybe we could look at the New York Liberty.
I think, yeah, height is our Achilles heel slightly. If Candace had been there, we're
Different story.
totally different story. We're not talking about height. We're talking about probably whose three pointers are not going to go down. And that this is the issue for me is I think defensively, I think with Kia Stokes we'll be okay.
Yeah.
With Alicia Clark, she will throw herself at rebounds.
Oh, she will.
Like she just throws her body
100.
around and she will still get rebounds. But
Mhm.
it's the initial shot going up. That when you've got
Yes.
if they do a switch onto Brianna Stewart or something, like that's where we're gonna struggle. And if I'm Sandy Brondello, that's exactly what I'm doing. I am making
Exactly.
that switch every
We
time.
don't want Brianna to get going. She's not playing well in the playoffs, so I'm not putting an undersized player on her.
And then on the Liberty side, I look at what they do and you look at the season. And yes, overall this season, 3-point numbers are up. The
Mhm.
percentages are up and everything else. However, there has been games
Yep.
where they've people say live and die by the three, and in a
Yep.
couple of games, more than a couple of games this year, they have died by that three. So you know, you get Sabrina who's maybe not having a hot night, Brianna's maybe not having a hot night. They do still have some weapons on the bench that can shoot
100.
threes. And Stephanie Dawson, I mean, again, talking about someone that will come into a game with energy
Yes.
and a bit of cheek, as we would call it in Scotland. That is Stephanie Dawson. Like she,
Yes.
like I am a huge fan of players coming in, trash talking off the
Oh,
bench, and then going and backing up. And she's one player that can like back it up. So yeah, she for me actually could be the difference. People be looking at other people
really?
on that bench, but I reckon Stephanie Dawson, because if you think, right, you've got
Wow. Okay.
Brianna and you've got Janquel on, and then you take one of them off, and whoever's guarding them, say it's Asia's guarding Janquel, Janquel goes off, Stephanie comes on against Asia. Asia's like played 35 minutes by this point. There's still 5 minutes in the game. Stephanie comes in nice and fresh with cheek and bounce and like I'm ready for this. Like I reckon on energy alone, like Asia is gonna have to and I don't doubt that Asia can do it, is find another gear. Because one thing that Steph is really good at is finding players. Her passing is phenomenal.
Mhm.
And the way that she can move in the post
Mhm.
as a big player is amazing as well. So, and she can find that little extra inch of space to put the ball up. So,
True.
I
So you
I
say
do worry.
Stephanie. I think it's Jonquel Jones. I think it's Jonquel Jones. She started with the injuries, out of shape, all those different things. She's gotten herself there. Does she run out of gas? Is my question. She may not. I'm not saying she will. I just think that with the injuries and everything, and her season has been kind of like slowly getting better and better, back to that beast mode. And even finding her way within the team, I think that's a big one for me. Is her and the perimeter players being able to guard one on one because the Aces have whooped their behinds on that all season. And that's why I mentioned the fact that I saw the zone. I said, I know where that's going and why you're doing that. And it allows your three perennial post players to do what they do best because they protect that basket better than anyone I've seen this season. And that's why I kind of wonder, like, I feel like that's an issue for the Aces, and then we got some issues on New York side as well around how do you do that? Benches, all of that. Do they go deep enough into the bench to go beyond Big Mama Stiff? So, and we'll see. I don't know if some of those other players who have shown up get that opportunity in the finals.
I think Vandersloot is a bit of a concern,
Yep.
shooting especially. I don't think she has had her best season in the W. I think, she is a player as well. I think she found herself in
Yes.
the team and found her role in the team relatively quickly. But I do feel like there's been occasions this season where she's thought, I'm gonna pass this off to Sabrina. I'm gonna pass this off to Brianna. And
Mhm.
when she has, like, there's
Selfless.
been a couple of times she's driven into the basket, it's not necessarily worked out for her. So
Yeah. But
I
it's
think that
offset by Kia Stokes. Kia Stokes has shot 4 baskets and missed all 4 of them against the Liberty all season. She doesn't even look at the basket.
no,
So I go, "It might even out."
may even have. Now, obviously, by the time we kind of come back, I think we'll be 3 games into
Yeah,
this series. By the time we come back, maybe even
it'll be
4.
fun.
By the time we go to New York, uh, let's go. Will this series be done by the time we come back next
No,
week?
absolutely not.
Is this going to 5
Yes.
all the way?
Unless someone gets hurt. Meaning if everyone stays healthy and this series goes the way it's supposed to go, I know people have said Liberty in 3. I know, and I go, but y'all are 2-2. That sounds stupid. Like we said Aces in 3 too, and I'll tell people I'm not saying that either. The series is 2-2, which means that's how we'll probably get this series evened up, and it'll go to that game 5. And the longer you play from a front office standpoint, you get to talk more about the expansions and all the different things that are going on in the league. And at the end of the day, money makes things work. It's not going to be a 3-game series when you've been hyping this all season. And you have all the drama of a WWE match coming into this. They're going to talk about the lawsuit. They're going to talk about the new team. They're going to talk about the Commissioner's Cup and how they went back and forth. This to me is a finals made, and it just came from heaven. This is perfect for where the league is and where they're trying to go. Game 5, excluding just a horrendous injury on any one side. Like everyone stays healthy, which we want. I think this goes to game 5. I think we're going to see where both teams' weaknesses get exposed and they're going to adapt for the next game. And we're going to see which coach is able to make the best adaptations for their team and which team is able to execute.
So who wins game 5?
Come on now, I'm biased. The Aces. They need to tie it up to 3-3. Look, you're behind. And you lost 6 games. You're supposed to be 40-0.
Yeah.
I feel like they got some things to prove. Like you had a great season. Everyone really expected you guys to run through this season. You have not been able to do that. You've had injuries, things to overcome. I think for them to get this back to back would be special because of the injuries and all the things they've had. Raquana, Derica, all these things that they have going on. It could actually really turn out in their favor in the end. If it doesn't, it could be kind of like a going into the off season. New York, if they win, give their flowers. Sandy Brundello is a great coach. She was able to do what we said it would take them 5 years. Brought together a mixture of veterans and young players, found a way to get them to win. And if you get, they become the new Golden State. Let's this finals. If they win by 3, they're the new Golden State team. So I think it'll be great. But I'm biased. I want the Aces to win.
So what's hilarious, right, is like if you go back through Twitter or X or whatever it's called this week,
Yeah.
if you go back through that, what is hilarious, probably just before they won the Commissioner's Cup, it's, "Oh, Sandy Brundello needs to go. Sandy's a terrible coach. Sandy's this. Sandy's that." And all those same haters
Mhm.
now are like, "Oh, Sandy's amazing." It's like, wow, how recency bias like
The only
plays
person
into
she hasn't won over is Skylar.
it. That might be true. But yeah, I think it'll be an exciting finals.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to even the game 1 is at
On
10
Fubu,
PM in the UK.
it's on Fubu. Everyone can watch it. Streaming, streaming platform. So
Ah,
everyone
and
can watch it. FUBO TV. Download the app. If you're overseas, you can hack your TV and download it with a VPN. But everyone can watch this game.
in the UK, it is on Sky Sports, so
Oh
you
yeah,
can watch the Sky Sports, and I probably watch it on League Pass 'cause got League Pass and I pay for it, so why not? So if anyone wants to watch it overseas legally, you can you can have it on League Pass as well. But we're looking forward to the finals. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be lots more to talk about over the next couple of weeks. There's another press conference this Sunday with Kathy, which I am sure is going to lead to more announcements of
Yes.
other things that are going on. I know the WNBA are sending out lots of emails to media, us, to tell us that these things are happening, like giving us plenty notice that they're happening so we can be there. So hopefully very soon we can have some more news for you. And hopefully very soon we'll have a new champion or the same champion, but like a new championship in Vegas. And we will be back next week. So everyone have a great one. Enjoy the games, enjoy the finals. If you are in Europe, yes, I feel your pain. We're going to be up late, but it's going to be worth it.
Amen.